I think we have allowed through complacency and really shock in a lot of cases the term DEI to be transformed into something ugly and to be essentially redefined as racism itself. I never imagined living in a world where people would look poorly upon diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
Welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters related to race, especially race in corporate America. I'm your host, TonyTidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed.
And we're live at WNHU 88.7 at the Richter Dial, the University of New Haven podcast studio. Want to thank them for allowing the Black Executive Perspective podcast to record here. They got how much longer before they come back, Noel?
About a week or so, a week and a half.
So, guys, you keep enjoying yourselves while you're gone, right? Because you're going to be back here, and the professors ain't going to take it easy on you, all right? But go Chargers.
We also like to thank and shout out our partners at Code M Magazine, where their mission is saving the Black family by first saving the Black man. That's Code M Magazines, 2M, CodeMMagazine.com.
Yeah, definitely check them out. Ian Haney Lopez, in his book, Dog Whistle Politics, discuss how modern racism isn't just about perpetuating traditional stereotypes. He explores how racism is strategically used to achieve specific objectives. Lopez highlights how politicians exploit subconscious biases to garner backing for policies that oddly harm not only people of color, but also the white working class as well. He explains this type of coded language functions at dual levels. It provokes racial anxiety while providing speakers the cover to deny any racial intent. In this episode, Josh Moon, an investigative reporter and columnist for the Alabama Political Reporter, joins us to discuss these issues, as well as to delve into his thought-provoking article titled, "We All Know What DEI Hire Really Means." Josh will unpack the controversial idea that the term DEI hire is frequently used as a coded word for racial slurs within political and corporate environments.
So before we get too deep into it, let me give you a little bit about Josh Moon. Josh is an award-winning columnist and investigative reporter working in Montgomery. A graduate of Auburn University, Montgomery, Josh has spent the last 15 years covering the state of Alabama in a wide variety of news, from sports to education to state government. So he's primed for this, ready for this, and we're going to get it in. Josh, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Cool. So, Josh, before we go too deep into the article and other things that you have going on, tell us a little bit about where you are currently and a little about your family.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I've been around here for a little longer than 15 years. I've been covering stuff in the state. Now, some of it was sports back when I first started. At that time, everybody was trying to get into newspapers, and we didn't realize quite the sinking ship that they would turn out to be.
That's true.
So I've been around for quite some time. Matter of fact, I was born in Decatur, Alabama. So I grew up in North Alabama and around, and have lived in the state for pretty much my whole life. And we have made a living out of kind of covering the politics and the craziness that happens here, and trying to do our part to make it a little bit better, I guess.
Awesome, buddy. And look, one of the things is you've been around for a long period of time, not just working for the political newspaper, but also I believe you also work for the other newspaper in Alabama as well. Is that correct?
I work for the Montgomery Advertiser.
Montgomery Advertiser, thank you.
Yeah, I worked for Montgomery Advertiser for a number of years. That's where I started my news career. Basically, I actually started there when I was still in college at AUM, and and then left from there in 2016, I believe it was, about 8 years now, and went over to the Alabama Political Reporter, and I have been really enjoyed that little venture. It's worked out really well for me and for them, I think. And so it's really, it gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity to do different things and, kind of take some ownership and make it to where, somebody else wasn't making all the money. So it works out always nice. It's always nice to be able to, to feed the family and stuff, and
That's right, my friend.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's why we get up and do what we need to do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So listen, my friend, obviously we're going to get into it. You wrote a lot of articles. You've been doing this for a long period of time. Why did you want to come on the Black Executive Perspective podcast to talk about this topic?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's an important topic for the state of Alabama, and for all corporations, really, because I think we have allowed through complacency and really shock in a lot of cases the term DEI to be transformed into something ugly and to be essentially redefined as racism itself. I never imagined living in a world where people would look poorly upon diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is
right.
what DEI stands for. And I mean, right. the idea that somebody would take equity and say, oh, that's just wrong is, it's a ludicrous idea, but that's what's happened. I mean, that, they have turned DEI into this, almost an example of unfair practices targeted towards one race, and of course it's the phony aggrieved white guy out there that is we've had it so tough. And really, I mean, listen, if you put us on a level playing field, I think life would probably be a little tougher. So I think that's what they're screaming about.
Right. Well, listen, buddy, we're glad you're here. You already seem like you're chomping at the bit. We're definitely chomping at the bit to get into it. So you ready to talk about it, my brother?
Sure. I'm ready to go when y'all are.
All right, let's talk about it.
So let me jump right into it. I mean, like you said, you've been baiting the hook here. The idea that it's ironic when this was first brought to me by Tony, I didn't expect the fire that you put on paper. And I'm like, man, I hope his address is not public. I hope his number is not published because he is in the great state of Alabama talking all this rhetoric. But give us a little bit about why you came so Yosemite Sam guns blazing about this, and why it kind of put the bee in your bonnet, so to speak.
Well, all right. So, I mean, first of all, I've lived here my whole life, so I'm as redneck as they are. All right. So bring it over here. I got guns and stuff too. Okay. So you bring it. I got a pickup truck. I can tow you out of here. So that's fine. But listen, honestly, I'll be honest. I feel like I've written harsher things than this before in the past, okay. And things much more controversial than this. But I think my biggest thing is it bothers me to no end these people that still place such importance on the color of someone's skin. And tend to denigrate people based on that. That to me is what the problem, where the problems stem. And we still have it today, and we still have these people who can't get past it. We still have these people who want to build their entire persona around it, who feel like whenever there's an effort to level the playing field, like I said before, that it's somehow a personal affront to them and it's going to cost them something, which, I live in a state that's governed by a whole lot of people that I wouldn't trust to water the plants when I'm on vacation. So, I leveling the playing field, I understand why they're threatened by that, because there are going to be people who are better equipped to do this job than they are, who are more, who are smarter, who are better people overall. And I think too often we have leaned away from certain people because of the color of their skin, and we've created an unfair playing field And then we've taken DEI was just simply a means to kind of get us back somewhat closer to that playing, to leveling it out, making it more equitable, showing people that if you have diversity, if you have inclusion in things, that you're going to find candidates that maybe don't look like you, but who are as equipped or better equipped to do some of the jobs that we have right now in our state government, in corporate America, and all walks of life. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, right. I'll go back to my sports days. How many times did we hear that the black kid just can't be the quarterback? They just can't be the quarterback. They just can't be.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we gave a few of those guys a chance to be the quarterback, and we may not ever have another white dude win an MVP. I mean, really. I mean, seriously, it's not just that they're good; they're better. They're better than that. And what really makes me angry is to think about how many great players that we wasted getting to that. And it's the same in every walk of life. Apply that to every position. How many great people did we toss away because of racism and ignorance and just really stupidity? Because, man, it is so stupid if you think about it. I mean, if you really just think about the reality of we're going to deny this person, or I don't like this person because of the color of their skin, or I think that person is dumber because of the color of their skin, or less equipped to do this because of the color of their skin, or more apt to commit crime because of the color of their skin. That's the stupidest thing. I mean, I think I told Tony before, I tan up real nice in the summer. And so in the summer, am I dumber? Am I more? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
That's how ludicrous it is, and has always been to me.
Let me ask you this though.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: do you truly believe that it is? And I'm asking from an ignorant perspective because I just don't know enough. Do you believe that they genuinely believe this stuff? Because even on the political dynamics now, there are things that are spewed or said or disseminated, and I'm saying it's impossible that a rational person is believing this. I think that it's a convenient scapegoat or a convenient mirage to mask the true insecurities, as opposed to me believing this woman or this Latino or this black person is just not smarter, not better, not more equipped. It's just easier for me to say that as a disguise because I have insecurities of, like you said, fear of losing out or fear of even in the playing field. But I don't necessarily believe they're less. I just believe I don't want to lose mine. Is that valid, or does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It makes sense. I think there's a mix of people.
Okay.
I think first of all, to get to the person that you're talking about, somebody that's saying it for their own personal advantage, I think there are fewer of those simply because I believe that somebody that says those things and is doing it for that way has to be a little smarter than the average, person out there. And so I don't think there's a lot of people that look at it that way. I do believe there are people in government and in leadership positions who use these things as wedges to fool the idiots. And they're doing it on purpose. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, they're doing it on purpose to divide people and say, oh look, he's stealing it. There's a great cartoon of, I believe it's of Rupert Murdoch sitting at a table, and Rupert Murdoch has a stack of money in front of him, and then there is another white older guy that's sitting there at the table, and he has just a small amount of money. And then there is a minority person sitting on the other side of the table, and Rupert Murdoch is saying to the white guy, "Watch out, friend! He's trying to take your money." And so that's what this is about. I mean, that's what this is about to a certain degree in corporate America, in government, in a lot of places. It's these people that have it and they don't want to lose it. They don't want to give it up. They don't want to let it go. And this is a means to an end for them. But you also need those compliant people to buy into the rhetoric. And so I think there are a lot of people out there who see DEI as this racist thing because so many people have pushed it from the top to say, oh, no, look, they're trying to take your, listen, if you get on a plane and the pilot is black, he's probably inferior. It's stupidity, I mean, it really is. But they buy it partly because it's what they want to believe. because they want to believe in themselves. They want to believe that they're working hard. They want to believe that they deserve these things, and they're not doing anything to to deny a black person a job or a Hispanic person a job or anything like that. But so why are they being denied? And so I think it's an easy kind of scapegoat that is used to divide, and there are just a lot of people who believe it.
Let's do, buddy, number one, thank you for that. It's funny because we chatted about that last week in our last episode, right? And I don't know if you was listening, or we should have had you come in, right? Because you're right on point where we are. And pretty much everything that you said. Here's the thing. I just want to, because you wrote an article, and I just want to paint the picture here. I was in Martha's Vineyard on the beach with my family, okay? And I read your article. Okay. And it's funny. I emailed you from the beach. Okay. And said, Josh, I just read your article and I would love to set up a call with you. I'd love to see if you, blah, blah, blah. And here you are. So that's how this article struck me. So I want to read a couple excerpts. I want to read one area first and I want to get your thoughts on it. You spoke a little bit about it, but your article is, we all know what DEI hire really means. And you kick it off like this, and I quote, DEI hire means the N-word. Let's stop beating around the bush. Let's stop talking in riddles. Let's stop being cowards. When you proclaim that so-and-so is a DEI hire, you're basically using a racial slur. You're saying, without really saying, that this person is somehow lesser because of their skin color, but that their skin color, along with the noble ambition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, was responsible for them landing the job, role, or attention. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. We all know it's true. So you came out, and you said earlier you wrote some stronger articles, all right? But you came out guns blazing on this right off the first sentence. DEI hire means the N-word. So talk a little bit about how did you come up with that? What made you come that way when something, to be fair, and we talked about dog whistles, and this is what DEI hire has turned into a dog whistle, just like woke. Woke turned into a dog whistle, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, and as I told you, you emailed from the beach, and I responded from the beach.
That's right, I remember.
And so, we were both working very hard that day, which is fine, which is fine. But no, I just, all right. So I'm, as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm in a southern state, okay?
Right.
And so I hear a lot of this. Closeted racism. Okay, we don't have, to be fair, we don't have a lot of the outward racism of the past. I know sometimes people hear stories about the South and they think about certain things in Alabama, especially, about how things are and how life is here, especially for minority folks and stuff. And but to be fair to the progress that has been made, we don't have a lot of that outward racism. That doesn't mean there's no racism. Don't get me wrong. It's just that, sometime back, most of our society here was shamed into doing away with the separate water fountains. Okay. And so we now hide it, and we hide it in certain ways in which the words like DEI hire, or you're right, woke is another great example of that, or just certain things that are done that wink and a nod. We had, for example, I wrote a column today about a superintendent of a school system here in this state who was run out of his job because he did too good of a job educating the Hispanic population in his school system, and as he did so, he neglected the white folks that were there that were paying his salary. Apparently the Hispanic folks don't pay any taxes or anything, but regardless, so that's what it bothers me. And this is what I often tell people is, you're a coward. If you want to say it, say it. Don't run around from it. Don't, Say it. Say what you mean. Stop beating around the bush and be a man enough to come out, or woman enough to come out and say what you mean. All right. And this is what they mean. This is what, when they call Kamala Harris a DEI hire in a race against that other person, we know what you're saying.
Right,
You're trying to denigrate her based upon the color of her skin and nothing more, because when you stack up the resumes, there's no comparison. There's zero comparison between the two over which one is more capable to do that job. All right? There's no comparison whatsoever. And that's even before you get into the coup stuff, okay? But, but yeah, I mean, so that's where that came. I get so tired of it. And sometimes when I don't, do either one of you write columns or opinion pieces or anything?
No,
or even
friend.
Facebook posts?
No.
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 Well,
you ruined it for
I
me
don't know
with your
anybody
article,
else's
so it'll never happen. You set the damn bar.
I don't know anybody else's experience, but sometimes when I sit down to write it because I am really pissed. All right, I've been something has pissed me off, and so it flows through. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes I just write from and I have something that I want to say, and I have always found it serves me best to, as one person, I used to cover HBCU here in Alabama, and a guy who told me he liked my stuff one time said that my greatest quality as a writer is the fact that I put it down there where the goats can get it. So.
I do have a question for you. So if you look at simple economics, the reason why something costs what it costs or is as high as it is because somebody's willing to pay that price. Right. Real simple. When you were calling out folks, are you calling out the consumer or are you calling out the purveyor of these ideas? Because I couldn't tell who was getting these strays that you were shooting. Like, are you talking about the politicians and the leaders that are, like you said, intelligently in a concerted effort spewing this foolishness? Or are you shaming the people who are absorbing this and allowing for the price to be as high because they're willing to pay that price?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Everybody can get it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I really, if you are a part of this, then that's who I'm talking to. I mean, I want you to be smarter at the bottom end and stop electing fools that try this stuff and stop fooling you into doing this stuff and hating your neighbor because of the color of their skin, even as I've also written a bunch of times, I have, as a working person, I have far more in common with the working black man, the working Hispanic man, the working woman, the working mom. I have far more in common with them than I do the white guy that's running things. All right? We got a whole lot. Our lives are way more similar. Our interests are way more similar. So why are you letting that dude dictate the way you think?
Buddy, so and that's the question. That's where we struggle, right? Because you're 100% right. And I don't understand, where you have working blacks and working whites and working Hispanics and working Asians. We all want the same thing.
Yes. Okay?
But their strategy, not the people, but the politicians and leaders' strategy is to divide and conquer. Okay? And we're stupid enough where we don't come together and really see through these things. Because if we come together and do exactly and think exactly what you just got finished saying, they wouldn't be in power. Okay? And so at the end of the day, I'm just wondering, why can't we just see through this? Because I struggle. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. You talked about how you get, mad and you write. I get mad as well. Because when people can't see through something to me that's just so common sense, seeing a person that's actually using people to get power, lying to them, saying that he has their best interests at heart when he really doesn't, okay? He really cares, but he'll say anything to get people to vote for him, okay? And you wrote, hold on, let me just put this, because I got to read this, because you wrote some stuff in here, which I was dying laughing, right? And you said, here it is. You said, Harris is an this is what you wrote. So let's lay this out. Harris is unqualified DEI hire. Donald Trump is a deserving, qualified presidential candidate. Harris, an attorney who worked for the district attorney of San Francisco, the California Attorney General, a U.S. senator, and the vice president of the United States, is a DEI hire. But the guy that was born on third base, blew through hundreds of millions of dollars of his family's money, declared bankruptcy multiple times, has been rightfully convicted of 34 felonies, failed at almost every business venture in which he was the majority owner, and whose sole claim of success in the venture that bailed him out was a reality TV show in which he hired and fired people to run a fake business, is the qualified candidate? And you say, man, stop it, end quote. So, I mean, how did we get here? Because it doesn't add up. And how doesn't, and let's be fair, though. There's black people that support Trump as well. Let's be fair, okay? How doesn't people see through this and they want to label her as a DEI hire? They labeled the mayor of Baltimore because the ship hit the bridge as the DEI mayor. These same dog whistles. How come people can't see through these things, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I will say in Donald Trump's defense, he is a excellent personal marketer. Okay, he has done it his entire life, and he is so good. I mean, you have got to let go of all. You've got to let go of all personal shame to do what he does, and he does it. I mean, he'll lie straight to you and clearly believe it, and know that he's lying while he's doing it, and know that that he's lying while he's doing it. Okay. And he'll still do it, and he'll do it with such confidence. I think that it attracts a lot of people when he says the thing that he does, because he's very good at giving people an excuse not to hate him, and he's very good at saying things that touch a nerve with a certain segment of the population, and particularly folks who are very patriotic, and have a less educated view of the world and of the country and of the inner workings of government and global economics. Okay. And so I think those things play very well into his favor. And if you look at his base of people, those are pretty much his base of people. That's his base of support are those people. And so I think that is who he appealed to, along with, and part of the appeal has been this, we're going to take your country back, and we're going to give it back to you because this has been stolen from you from what it's not like what it used to be in the 50s, which right. I mean, doesn't necessarily explain the support of the black folks, but I mean, correct. But it does explain a lot of the other support that he has out there. And I think it was made possible by the Obama presidency. Obviously nothing, there's no derogatory mention for Obama there, but the fact that we had the nation's first black president, he was very successful. A lot of people really gravitated towards him. A lot of people voted for him, and they did so with such glee. But Obama pushed us too far. They pushed us too far. I mean, because listen, he just refused to stop being black. Okay, I mean, and he just maintained being black his whole presidency, and really he's still doing it today. And and so haven't we given enough at this point? Racism is dead. We can do whatever we want. And Trump came in pushing this message of nationalism, of we're going to be tough again. We're going to stop this. We're going to return to the old ways of doing stuff. And it resonated with a certain group of people. And I mean, you add in a dash of Russian interference, and there you are.
I think the silliest part is we created he really incited a level of xenophobia in a country full of immigrants. And that was ironic as hell, right? But
right. Those are immigrants like them, not immigrants like us.
Yeah. They're not exactly.
They're not like us.
It's different classes of immigrants, right? His wife is an immigrant.
We came here the right way.
Wife is an immigrant.
The right
all right,
way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this concept of I don't know openly and candidly what a DEI job is or what they would qualify as an acceptable or accepted DEI job, because we talk about black jobs, he said, and then DEI hires is what's going around now in this concept. And basically, if you just do deductive reasoning, if you're not a straight, white, Christian male, you're a DEI hire.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because if you're a woman, if you're Latino, if you're black, if you're LGBTQ plus, IA plus, any of these things, you become in the qualification of a DEI hire. So therefore, the only true hires, and I'm just trying to get some clarification here. It appears as if you think about it as it's being depicted, the only real deserving employed people are white, male, Christian, heterosexual men.
Yes. Yes, that's true. That's true.
Ah, wow.
Otherwise, you didn't
I
deserve
did not
it.
want you to say yes there.
Yeah, otherwise you didn't deserve it.
Yeah, otherwise you didn't deserve it. And
Wow.
listen, this is not new. I mean, this went on with affirmative action. Yeah,
Exactly.
Affirmative action.
Buddy.
How many times did you hear that? Whenever there was whenever there was a woman or a minority that did anything on a job that you disagreed with, or that didn't necessarily know the job as well as you felt they should know, how many times did you hear a person say about, well, that's an affirmative action hire, probably. I mean, it was that this was always this thing, is that person you can't, and that's I've had so many. When we talk about white privilege, you should have read some of my columns about white privilege. If you, got some of those emails about those. When I tried to point out examples of this, that they, and I would say to people, was your life easy? Did you have it easy? And of course, inevitably, everybody who's of a certain age, no, what, are you kidding me? No, I worked hard for everything I got. I was like, that's right. And did anybody try to keep you from going to the school that you went to? Did they try to stop you from buying the house in the neighborhood in which you bought it? Did they ever kick you off of a bus or not stop for you in a cab? Did you ever not get an interview because of the sound of your name? Did any of that stuff happen to you? Well, imagine how tough your life would be if some of that. I don't know how y'all feel about custody, but sometimes I get one of those. But but some of the stuff.
Be you.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? And so I think that's where this kind of comes from, is that they've done an excellent job of painting any effort to level the playing field as an attack on white people.
Right. Zero-sum game, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't share, right? We can't share with others. If we do that, they're going to take what you have, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the game. Let me ask you this. You're in Alabama. You and you just said it. I read your article. You just said I wrote many articles that were stronger than this one. You just talked about white privilege. Tell us some of the response that you're getting based on what you're writing. And I hate to use the word red state because this is the United States, right? But in a very conservative area, I would imagine. Give us a little feedback of what people are saying to you. Is if people applauding, or they're like, "Oh my God, I'm glad, Josh. Thank you for doing this," or do you have 24-hour bodyguards? I mean, just let us know what's going on.
Also, in this regard, I would be happy to hear the best justification you've received, because all people can be very creative. But what I've realized is the most staunch bigots are extremely creative in their belief system and how they justify their activities and actions.
Yeah, no, I will say you'll probably be surprised because there are a lot of people here who think like me. There are a lot more than people realize, and even at the worst, even when we go to the polls and you can see it on paper, what Trump's going to get, versus the Democratic candidate opposing them, it's going to be a 60-40 split, and so I mean that's a big margin in the political world. That's a 20-point margin, but in life, in real life, you don't 60-40. Still, you're getting there, and I think even among the 60, there's a solid percentage of those folks who are far more reasonable and understanding and educated, and they may vote for Trump because they like Trump's tax policies or something along those lines. They like the Republican way of doing things from a conservative economic standpoint. They don't necessarily buy in. It's right now it's a big problem around here is the IVF stuff and some of the the Roe fallout
reproductive
in the
rights.
Suburbs with suburban women. It's a pretty big problem for the Republican Party in the state. But so it's not as bad, and a lot of the responses I receive are from people who say, listen, we think the same way, or I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I do agree with X, Y, and Z, and I do think that this, or they'll come back and they'll have a very reasoned thing and say, listen, isn't it time that we figure out a better way to do this than through DEI or through affirmative action? Isn't there a better way that we can judge people more appropriately regardless of skin color and level the playing field like you're talking about? Which, if you can come up with it, I'm all for it. I just, I don't know that the solution exists. But I also get the crazies, and I've had people, but I've been on so many things now. I've been on, and around for so long that I think people kind of realize that I may be crazier than they are. And so they don't, they're like, I don't know, man. He seems like he might do something to you. And so, at least I'm going to punch back, and it's not, I think that kind of tempers the responses I get sometimes. I get some crazies. I get some people that are just out of their minds. And, it's just like I got one today to the column I wrote about the superintendent that got ran out. And it's the guy wanted to remind me that I worked in a failed industry that no one trusts anymore. And this is the reason why, because that person got run because he turned his back on his true constituency and the people who were paying his salary. And he forgot who hired him, and that type of thing. And so, I get those a lot, but it is and I'll post them on Facebook. And Facebook is better than the alternatives out there. The Twitter world. The Twitter world is insanity. But 90% of those people are fake. So that helps. And so I don't even really mess with that anymore. But it's a weird kind of mix of things, and I think that it's I'll say that I know when I have said something or written something that they cannot really argue because they are extra mad and they are extra hateful. So that always tells, whenever one comes in, my wife says, I just don't know how you put up with that. And I'm like, well, because I know when somebody sends me something like this, that I have gotten so far under their skin because what I've said is true that they can't stand it any longer. And that's how.
In Alabama specifically, because that's obviously where you're born and raised and things of that nature, what do you say if somebody says that the people of Alabama don't have a desire to be progressive, that they don't have a desire to evolve, that they want to be stuck in a suspended animation when they felt like things were greater, easier, or more favorable to them? Do you see that as part of the dynamic, or this is the chance for you to tell the world, on this platform, if that's a misnomer? Is it really not that way?
No. It's that way. The majority of the people are, they're stuck in this, and they don't want to be progressive. They want things to be like they were. They like their little small towns. They like their small town life. They like the way the things were running. They don't want anybody to disrupt that or tell them that they're wrong. I will say that sometimes I think their desire to be that way gets misconstrued as less progressive or less caring And sometimes it's not a matter of, we don't want to, we like our town the way we like our town. But they're not saying, hey, we like our town and we don't want any of those folks in the town. They're just saying we like it small, we like it, lazy and easygoing and laid back kind of a town, and we don't want the big industry, we don't want the big, the box stores. We like the mom and pops in the downtown areas and that kind of thing. But and in terms of progression of schools, I give you a really good example. A couple of years back, we had some charter schools. That everybody was a charter school craze, and now private school funding and all this kind of stuff has come through this state as well. But we had a little small town, a very conservative small town, that just fought like hell against a charter school that was coming in there from this folks that were running it from out of state. It was going to suck up resources from their public schools. They did not like that. Their public schools were probably 50-50 black-white. They did not have any private schools in the state, in the county, really. Now, that was a big problem for a couple of more wealthy people that were trying to get this charter school in. And that's what they wanted it for. They wanted to essentially turn it into a de facto private school they could send their white kids to and get them out of those dangerous schools. Now, there was no evidence that those schools were dangerous. There's no evidence those schools were not underperforming. As a matter of fact, they were some of the better performing schools in the state. But they still weren't happy for some reason. Couldn't really put our finger on it. But those folks in that town fought against that, and they killed it. They absolutely killed that charter school and stopped it from coming, and saved their public schools and their public school teaching positions that went along with it. And so I think those sorts of things, still happen. And but they're on the flip side, there are the folks like the ones I talked about who ran the superintendent out,
Right,
because he was too good at educating the Hispanic kids. And, those things happen here. And we do resist progress, and we do look at progressivism as some sort of a bad word, and I've never really understood that. And as I tell people all the time, all the things that you're doing that are good for the state, a progressive suggested you do that 15 years ago, and you fought it, but now here we are, and it's all worked out okay. So there's going to be that fight against it, and that's just the way that a lot of people are here.
Josh, let me ask you this. From a corporate standpoint, right? The term DEI hire. Obviously, we've been talking about it. Your article was about DEI hire, the term overall, but you were talking specifically about Kamala Harris as being a DEI vice president. In terms of corporate jobs or jobs in the state of Alabama, are there challenges of pushback in terms of the policies when it comes to DEI in those companies? And if so, what's some of the pushback? And then my follow-up question to that, people of color in the state, Hispanics, blacks, Asians, what are they doing? Are they just sitting back and it's 60-40 and nothing we can do? Or are they pushing back in terms of trying to, it might be tough, but trying to get a change and trying to change minds and hearts?
I would say on the whole, that most of the businesses, and especially the major businesses in this state, recognize the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think many of them, long before the state adopted those practices, they did as well. And I've read some stories about Regions Bank, who's one of the bigger banks in this state, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, and the DEI programs and inclusion programs that they have gone about implementing, and they were doing that way before. So way before. And so I think that those businesses, and as a matter of fact, just last weekend, the Business Council of Alabama, which is a kind of a conglomerate of Alabama's bigger businesses here, talked about how they were going to put together a campaign program where they were going to recruit candidates. They were going to look for better candidates that were more business friendly, and that they were going to start basically what they were saying without saying is we're going to start focusing on some of these radicals that are looking at the participating in these culture wars and doing some of this nonsense like getting rid of DEI, and we're going to recruit candidates that will oppose those people. And so I think they understand that we've probably moved way too far to the right here, because at a point, I mean, and this is what I've argued with a lot of business people over the years, is at a point, man, you're hurting yourself.
Correct.
You know, I mean, this sort of hiring and stuff introduces new ideas, brings in new markets, it opens you up to a whole slew of consumers that you would never have before, and also to employees, to great employees that would come in and transform your business and help you out in ways you never imagined. And instead, you're attacking this, you're being part of a group of people that are attacking this and allowing them to run the state and do crazy things, and this is not to your best interest. And so I think maybe finally we reached the tipping point, and they kind of said, okay, we've got to do something, and so hopefully that will help push back on some of this and bring us back closer, at least closer to the center, and do some things. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's going to be an uphill battle. But as far as the minority communities, the various minority communities and employees here, there have been some efforts. One of the biggest things we've had recently is the union push here, and we came really close. Alabama has transformed itself into a big auto manufacturing state, and we have had we've come pretty close to unionizing the first auto plant here, the Mercedes plant in Tuscaloosa, and I think eventually that's going to happen. But more so than anything, we saw the results of those and how those companies transformed their practices on pay and hiring and everything else to kind of keep up with what was happening at the unionized auto manufacturers around the country. And so I think those things, along with trying to organize better, hopefully they can work with the business council and some of those major businesses now, if they're going to start putting in that effort, and maybe they can maybe we can push it forward and hopefully get some progressive action taking place.
Got it.
When you look at the term DEI hire and it being perceived as synonymous with underqualified or unqualified, what do you surmise is the solution to that, beyond being able to give? What you did was you laid out a resume for Kamala Harris, right? And basically you just laid out the cards, boom, boom, boom. But there's a famous quote that says, for those who believe, no explanation is required, and for those who do not, no explanation will do. And the reality of it is, you could have so many qualifications that show empirically that you're qualified, but if someone has a belief that because of your tone, your skin tone, or because of your gender, or whatever the case may be, that absolves all of this paperwork, all of these great schools that you've attended, all these certifications, all these references, all of that. Is there a solution beyond the vigor of someone's bias? Or is it a situation where we just have to kind of just keep fighting the good fight and hope for the best? Like, what is your thought on that as far as a potential solution forward?
Well, it's tough to compete with idiots.
They got a lot of energy.
Yeah,
they got a lot of energy. It's like a 2-year-old, man.
They're seldom right, but never in doubt. Okay, and so it's so you're going to run into those people, but I think the only thing that's going to solve that is time and effort and the programs, just like we're talking about, the diversity, equity, inclusion, because not only do those things benefit businesses and open up consumer markets and things like that, they also teach the idiots out there that these places are, that these folks are good in those jobs, that they're I mean, how many people now show up to an Alabama football game and cheer on the black quarterback? You know what I mean? Right. And so where before that was, no, and so That's what I'm saying. But those examples of the successes and of the and people realizing, oh hey, those might just be people too. I think a lot of those ignorant ideas get pushed down when you see the examples right in front of your face.
Buddy, final thoughts, my friend. What do you want to leave? Number one, you've been awesome. Really, I mean, we could talk to you for the next 5 days straight, right? Final thoughts, my brother. What do you want to leave our audience?
Listen, the only thing I want to say is I know the thoughts of Alabama, okay, and so not all of us think this way. I know when you heard this accent, you deducted 15 IQ points. I know you did. That's fine. It's okay. It's okay. I get it. We've earned that. Okay, we've earned that. Of years of trying. I get you. But there are people who are trying. There are good people everywhere. And there are good people who want other good people to get the opportunities that they deserve. And I think that's the way so many people should look at it is the only thing, if you don't remember anything else, is this idea of who you have something in common with. Okay. And you have far more in common with the people who live on your street and in your neighborhoods, all right? Whether they be black, Hispanic, white, Asian, whatever. You have far more in common with those people. And those people want almost exactly the same things you want. They want a decent job to pay the bills, to sleep easy at night, to send their kids to a decent school, to hope those kids grow up and are successful and make them proud. All people want those same things for the most part. I mean, there are a few crazies, but for the most part, 99.9% of people want those exact same things. All right. And you have your interest in the things that you share are with those people and not with the idiots that are trying to divide you.
It's interesting that you say that because obviously reading your article, we want the same thing you want. States like, Tony's on the East Coast, I'm in Texas, and we want the same thing. So the world is actually a lot smaller than just your neighborhood, if you really give yourself a chance to absorb that. That's right. And so my question to you is, obviously you're going to keep writing passionately, and we're going to end up having you back for something else you say. Yosemite Sam style. Man, it's just that's the nature of things, right? But what can a Black Executive Perspective podcast do to help you?
Oh, listen, if you guys send some folks my way, we have our own podcast. I host a co-host a podcast, I should say, with David Person, who is a Black journalist here in the state of Alabama. We host a podcast called Alabama Politics This Week, and we bring on folks from, I would say, from a more progressive perspective of things and give those folks an opportunity. It's Alabama Politics This Week. It's wherever you find podcasts if you'd like to listen. We have Doug Jones and Terry Sewell and a lot of folks on from the state and some names you might recognize. And also Alabama Political Reporter. If you go there and look at our stuff, give us a few clicks. It never hurts,
Absolutely.
Buddy, that's an easy thing for us to do. So we'll definitely connect after because we can definitely, send you some guests who would probably love to come on your show and chat.
Sure.
So, so that's automatic. That's easy to do, right? And then back to Chris's earlier statement, we would love for you to come back on sometime in the future. Obviously we're in a political year. So we love to come back on and have you talk about certain things. We got less than 90 days of things playing themselves out. So we can imagine there's going to be some type of roller coaster. There's going to be some things that we're going to be like, for real? That happened? So we would always be open to having your perspective, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it. I've had a really enjoyable time, and I hope we do get to do this again sometime.
All right. Well,
the one thing I'll say to leave, Tony, is you remind me of a famous quote that said, "If you make the world idiot-proof, it will invariably create a greater idiot."
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And very true. Very true.
So true. So true. But Josh, stay right here, buddy, because you're going to help us with our call to action. So I think it's now time for
Tony's Tidbit.
All right, now it's time for Tony's Tidbit. And the Tidbit always is about what we talked about. So the Tidbit today is reject code words that disguise bias. Embrace terms that foster unity and respect. And that's what Josh was just closing up on, talking about the thing we all want the same things. The people in your neighborhood, you're closer to them than anybody else, and they all deserve the same thing. So let's get rid of the cold words. Let's reject the bias, and let's run to the things that foster unity and respect.
And then also, I want to give another reminder to tune in to our weekly segment, Need to Know with Nsinga. Don't miss this week's Need to Know segment with Dr. Nsinga Burton. A Black Executive Perspective podcast has Dr. Burton diving into timely and poignant, crucial topics that shape our community and our world. Tune in and gain those unique insights and deepen your understanding of issues that matter. You do not want to miss her. She is almost as incendiary as our guest Josh.
Wow. Absolutely. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We all know what DEI hire really means with our guest, Josh Moon. So I think it's now time
for our call to action. Remember to incorporate less, LESS, and that's learn, empathize, share, and stop. And so the first L, or the L, is to educate yourself on racial and cultural nuances. Make sure you stay up on top of these things and don't just be a lemming, like Josh was saying, following whatever somebody else is saying that doesn't even live where you live or think like you think.
Exactly. And then after you learn, now E stands for empathy. Since you've learned now about new people and new nuances, now you should be able to empathize with your fellow human being.
And share. Share is the first S, right? Share your insights to enlighten others. Because if your crazy friends can share their insights on Facebook, then shouldn't you share smart things with them?
I love it. And the final S is stop. We want to stop discrimination in its path. So when you're at the Thanksgiving table and grandma says something inappropriate, you say, Grandma, we don't believe in that. We don't say that. And you stop it right in its path. So if everybody incorporates less, LESS, will build a fairer, more understanding world, and we'll be able to see the change that we want to see because less will become more.
So we'll remind you to tune in for our next episodes and also go to the website and sign up for our newsletter. Please leave us a review and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. This will help us scale and meet you where you are and talk about the topics that are important to you.
And you can follow a Black Executive Perspective podcast on all our socials, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at A Black Exec. For our fabulous guests, our brother from another mother, Josh Moon, the best co-host with the most crispy read. We got Noel Miller behind the glass who's making all this happen. I'm TonyTidbit. We talked about it. We love you, and we're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.